This novel is such a dramatically brave and calculated step in bringing to light the atrocities of racism that America had participated and experienced since its inception. Um, how would white people receive this novel? Well, of course, not very warmly. That's just obvious. This is not an unexpected feeling in any way, because for once there had been a chance for racism to be shown so bluntly and so directly in mainstream society. So of course people are going to be mad, white people. As history progressed in the U.S., African Americans were gaining power and overcoming the oppression bestowed on them by white elitists. This novel is an example of that, of white people feeling their grip on power starting to slip a little bit. Novels like this are a way to take away some of that control of white people. No longer could white people hide from the growing aftermath of countless years they mistreated other equal humans, African Americans. To me, this novel has played a sort of long game in society. Wright, the writer, must have known of the dramatic controversy to follow this publication, but maybe he was thinking of us in the 21st century who read and understood this story very differently. I do not know for sure if Wright was warning whites. He was rather probably attempting to bring awareness to the dramatic negative effects of racism in the past, present, and future. He wanted to focus on the negative to bring about positive social changes. I think he accomplished that quite well. While small-minded whites who were stuck in their traditionalist point of view may have only strengthened in their beliefs, because that's just how humans work, others were awakened to the gravity of their mistakes as well as their ancestors' mistakes. Wright could have not made a novel to end racism, because those people who are stuck in their ways are not going to change. They will only become less and less as we move forward in time, meaning there will be less of those people. And we can see that. There are less people like that in 2019 as there were in 1940. And that's a good thing. That's a good part of moving forward and progressing in society. Wright knew this, and he wrote a novel that maintained relevance now for many, many years into the future. Schools are pretty much always putting this book into American curriculum at some point in a child's childhood. So this book is really, really important now. So who cares if white people were offended? This novel is not about sympathizing for white elitists. It's about understanding how much they have created, how much harm they've created. Although it was quite a risk for Wright to write such an inflaming piece of literature, knowing the response he would receive. It was very, very brave. For the second question about generational trauma, this is a really interesting and relevant topic for our generation of Americans. I feel personally very uncomfortable making an opinion on this because it feels wrong of me to feel any sort of relevance to this topic. I'm irrelevant in this. I shouldn't be making any sort of judgment on others' feelings, especially African Americans who have had to deal with the horrible treatment caused by me and my race. I feel responsible for the actions of my ancestors because this is my lifeblood and my family tree who acted so vulgarly. It's my job to do everything and more to right the ship and heal the wounds created hundreds of years ago to the best of my ability. So, to more directly answer your question, I believe it would be horribly inappropriate for me as a white man to say that generational trauma is invalid. Who am I to say how an African American should feel about racism. Would that not just be me acting like the white elitists of the past? White power always thrives on control and devaluation of African Americans. So I'm not going to participate by controlling how African Americans should feel. And I especially do not want to invalidate their feelings. This wound of racism is still raw, and the effects last so long, and they're going to keep lasting. And I don't blame any current African Americans for feeling negatively impacted by events in the past in one bit. That is a totally legitimate response to the actions my ancestors did, and still white people do to this day. If it were me, I feel I would most likely relate to this idea of generational trauma very strongly as an African American. It's hard to grasp for white people because we're not experiencing these effects, so it's hard for us to really even understand what they are. But time does not just make the past go away. Racism and slavery and prejudice all happened, and to a lesser extent still exist. African Americans have every right in the world to feel whatever way they want to feel or feel they have to feel. This is not my place to make any opinion, especially not a negatively impacting opinion.